Stop doing the thing. God, you motherfucker.
What did I do?
Not you, the computer.
Your computer, your laptop, your fossil.
Listen.
Your fossil of a laptop. How long is that? How long have you had that thing? Before college?
Sophomore year of college?
That's over a decade now, I think.
We don't have to talk about it.
Dude.
Motherfucker.
Anyway, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to Tall and Short with Tim and Tony.
He's Tim.
And he's Tony.
And this is a stupid computer.
Luckily, we're recording on my laptop and not yours. I don't know if yours could handle any of this.
I think my computer would probably fry up and just burst a flame.
Well, I've got a special topic for you this week, Tony.
It's not another serial killer, is it?
Thankfully, no.
Thank God.
Thankfully, no. I wanted to cover a different type of topic. We've covered, especially me in a lot of cases, I've covered sinister, spooky, nefarious stuff, you know?
Yeah.
So it's just like...
Yeah, that's more your area of expertise on this than mine.
Hold on a second, the table's moving.
The table is moving.
There we go.
It clicked.
I'm gonna keep that in. We have a table in between us, and the legs were not properly secured on my end. I was like, uh-oh. As I was. There's no monsters, no killers, but I do have some really cool mythical folklore for you. Last week we talked about Nessie up in Scotland. Well, we are not leaving Scotland. We're going to be moving a little bit more to the northeast, and I want to talk about the Fairy Flag of Dunvegan, as well as some very other neat little heirlooms that are from a family in Scotland.
What was it? The
Fairy Flag of Dunvegan. Got a whole thing about this.
Ah, there it is.
First off, I want to talk about the location.
Okay.
As I said, we're going to Scotland, specifically to Dunvegan, which is a little village located up on the Isle of Skye in western Scotland. Northwestern, up in the Hebrides. Up in those, kind of like a little archipelago sort of thing up in the northwest. It is home to Dunvegan Castle, which is the primary residence of the MacLeod of the MacLeods, who's sort of like the high chieftain of the Clan MacLeod.
Yeah.
If you're familiar with the name, have you ever seen Highlander?
There can be only one.
Connor MacLeod, the very same.
Nice.
The Clan MacLeod is a Highland Scottish clan, with the branch that we'll be focusing on is based out of Dunvegan. There is another branch being in Harris, no relation, and another two branches of the clan being of Lewis and Rossay. Got quite a the tree literally like branched off in a bunch of places. I had to be like, that's awesome. This is some almost Game of Thrones style insanity on who's cousins to who. So I said I'm just gonna stop.
You never mess with a European family tree.
Yeah, pretty much. But the MacLeods themselves. Tony took a sip out of his new water bottle, and he's giving me a look like, oh, did that pick up on the mic? I don't know.
We'll find out.
So, anyway, most of the MacLeod tradition actually starts with one person. The name of Lode, L-E-O-D. Not much is known about Lode, except it is traditionally thought he was born around 1200 CE, that his father was Olaf the Black. What you giggling at?
I have 5 tabs open and my computer froze.
Oh, no. Well, looks like the fairies have struck, Tony.
Oh, gremlins.
Well, we'll worry about Tony's computer as I continue to talk about load, shall we? So,
yeah,
let your computer take a load off. As I said, his father was Olaf the Black, and that Lode was raised by his father's friend and ally, Paul Balkison, who was the sheriff, or more like a governor, really, of the Isle of Skye. When Lode got older, and Paul Balkison had died, Lode was given a vast amount of land, including Harris, which is not really like another island, but a territory on one of the islands up that way, as well as the Isle of Skye. Yeah, and mostly due to, Olaf the Black was, I would argue, a warrior. He was off fighting all the time.
I mean, with a name like Olaf the Black, like, he sounds like a villain of How to Train Your Dragon.
Yeah, and it was and I was like, how did he get a name? He had dark hair. That's the only reason why he was given the moniker Olaf the Black.
Simpler times.
I know,
Simpler
right?
times.
I mean, it was like Olaf the Spiky. His hair was all done up in spikes or something. That'd be cool.
Sid Vicious the Spiky.
Yeah, but Paul Balkison, you know, he was essentially a landed man, a gentleman who had all the land, and he raised Lode, is how the stories have gone.
Yeah.
And Lode was given these vast amount of land. He would also marry the daughter of MacLeod Armwin, which brought the rest of the Isle of Skye under one person. Truly unifying families. This again, all this medieval stuff.
If you marry your 15th cousin...
That's how it seems.
No, it's probably lower number than 15th, but you know.
I'm not going to go into speculation. I did not look into that. With his wife, Lode was said to have had several children, including 2 sons with the names Tormod and Torquil. From Tormod, this is where the MacLeods of Harris and Dunvegan descend, and from Torquil, the MacLeods of Lewis and Rasse. Now, here's where some craziness happens, because there has been some debate over whether or not Torquil was actually the son of Lode, or if that he was actually the great-grandson of Lode. Keep in mind, again, they say that Lode was born in, 1200 CE, so...
Yeah, no, that's just the end of Game of Thrones.
Yeah, keep in mind that the records are not really well done back then, especially up in 11th century Scotland. Or is it 13th? I never get that right.
13th would be the 1200s.
Yeah, 13th century. I always mess those up. Anyway.
How do you mess that up? I always get that right. That's the one thing I mastered.
At least you're going up on something. Historically speaking, Lode may not have been real, actually, due to there not being many records about him. He's also considered the progenitor of the MacLeods by members of the Clan MacLeod in the 17th century. And a nice little sidebar. The current MacLeod of MacLeods is Hugh Magnus MacLeod, the 30th chief. He took up the title in 2007 when his own father passed away. Hugh has been restoring Dunvegan Castle and its gardens so it can be a great tourist attraction, and as recently as 2020, I found a Daily Mail UK article where Mr. MacLeod sought to rewild the MacLeod estate with over 370,000 native trees across the 42,000 acreage.
I'm 100% for that. I love what's it called? Renaturalizing?
Rewilding.
Rewilding, yeah. I love rewilding stuff.
And in fact, speaking of, I actually want to now talk about the castle itself. And it is built on the summit of a rock overlooking the eastern shore of Loch Dunvegan. Now, when I say a rock, I don't mean like a little measly thing. I mean like
a Scottish rock,
a literal fucking a giant throw it from a faraway distance rock.
Yeah,
like it looks
a giant rock that turned into a hill.
Exactly. Yeah, it looks just like that, and
like that scene in Hellboy 2.
Yes.
Yeah,
but that was in Ireland, I think.
Yes.
Whatever the case.
Green.
But it's a very classic fantasy setting. I mean,
yeah.
The grounds may have been a fortified camp before the initial castle was built, which I can see that. You have a high vantage point. And then starting in the 1220s, the castle would slowly be built and piecemealed over the centuries. Like, we got the main hall here, and then here's another tower right here. Yep. We're going to put the gate right here. There's the portcullis. Hey, there's the fairy tower. And, so on and so forth. In the 19th century, it was given a mock medieval remodel. So, column A, column B of modern and traditional. So, some of the modern 19th century Victorian amenities while also focusing on the traditional looks back then. And my favorite thing about this, out of everything, is the fact that this castle is the oldest continuously inhabited location in Scotland, the same family for over 800 years.
Jesus.
Yeah, dude. Another cool thing about this, you can actually book a trip to the castle.
Airbnb it.
No. You can take a guided tour, seeing all the various artwork, tapestries, and treasures, getting a chance to see the rolling green hills, learning the history of Clan MacLeod, as well as the castle itself. You can even take a nice little boat ride to see a local seal colony at the loch.
Nice.
As well as various wildlife in the area.
I would be okay with all that. That would be actually pretty cool.
Oh yeah, not to mention, is your laptop working or?
Listen, I don't have to talk about.
I am legitimately asking, like, not out of like a oh.
It's attempting.
All right, I actually want to show you Castle Dunvegan. Like this is one of the shots of it, a good aerial shot. There's a couple other shots that do it way better justice, but this is a good one. Whenever you get a chance.
Oh, okay. I was like, why?
I'm sending it to your phone.
Oh, that's so pretty.
I know, right?
I want to live there.
Not to mention you can walk through the formal gardens or eat at some of the restaurants at the castle. And when you compare it to the rest of the Isle of Skye, Dunvegan Castle is an oasis. The Isle of Skye having, these barren moorlands and being very mountainous and rugged.
Mm-hmm.
But when I saw barren, I was like, are we certain? It's not like what we think of barren. You and I are from central United States.
Yeah,
when we
know barren.
When we think of barren, we think of deserts and not a whole lot of growth.
Plains where you can literally see the other state.
Yeah. I thought, like, oh, it's, barren wastelands. Like, not, now, like, there's greenery, but it's not like trees. It's mostly like low grass, and you can clearly see the gray rocks peeking up out over. It's true. Looking at the Isle of Skye, I thought I was looking at a classic fantasy story once again. It's
Scotland.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've never been. I want to go. It really looks like a beautiful country, and that's something I want to mark off my bucket list.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I mentioned our treasures from earlier. Because, what's a castle without some cool treasures? There are 3 main treasures, or heirlooms, that the Clan MacLeod hold most dear. We're going to start with the Dunvegan Cup. It's a ceremonial cup made out of wood and plated in silver. It's a very unique type of cup where the rim is square while the body is rounded. It has several etchings in silver with images of circles, triangles, and the Christian Trinity. The cup also has 4 feet that look like armored legs.
Nice.
So it's very
villainy sounding.
It's a very unique looking vessel, that's for certain. And there appears to be a few small holes and pits that are in the side of the cup, which may have been small gems and glass or coral beads that have fallen out over time. And keep in mind, this thing's a relic. This thing is an ancient piece.
Yeah.
Like, you want to talk about artifact? I'll send you that to check it out.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. It's an interesting piece.
That's bizarre.
Yep. Up on the silver rim of the cup, there are some black letter or Gothic script inscriptions.
Yeah.
And if you're familiar with that, it's that blocky, everything's very similar lettering that you see in a lot of old medieval manuals.
Mm-hmm.
And these were all written in Latin. Sir Walter Scott made an attempt to translate the inscriptions. I actually had to go to Wikipedia for this one. And his translation into English was Ufo, the son of John, the son of Magnus, prince of man, the grandson of Liahea, MacRainel. I'm definitely absolutely upsetting anybody who might know Scottish Gaelic right now. I am so sorry. Trust in the Lord Jesus that their works will obtain mercy. O'Neill Oimni made this in the year of God 993. So
it's a little old.
But that might not have been the right translation. Around the same time, with Sirs Daniel Wilson and Eugene O'Curry, they both had drastically different translations. I want to see if I have those here. Wilson's amended rendering was Katarina ni Rinel Uxor Johannes Megur Principes de Framina. That's all Latin. Anno Domini 1439 oculi hominum et desperant domine et tu das escram illorum et in temporo opportuno. I'm usually better at Latin than this.
Okay, so I'm just going to paint the picture from my end of the table here. You were doing the hand gestures like you were in Catholic church. You looked like Leisure Pope with what you're wearing.
The Leisure Bishop?
No. Straight up Leisure Pope.
Going Pope. Okay.
Go full Pope on this.
Sir Walter Scott thought that the cup was of Hebridean origin from 1993. And as I said, the Hebrides is that archipelago sort of location up in northwest Scotland, which you see branch off pretty close to, closest to Ireland. Wilson considered the cup to be Irish in origin, speaking off of that again. I'm not even going to reread those again because that's going to hurt my head. Nope, I'm not going to. I hurt my brain trying to reread that. Let's see. The cup was gifted to Sir Rory More MacLeod, the 15th chief of the MacLeods, from the O'Neills of Ulster, which is up in Northern Ireland, as a token of thanks for Sir Rory More's support against Queen Elizabeth I's invading forces. Because this is at a time when it was still that English Civil War period wherein it was Protestants versus Catholics, and Queen Elizabeth I was a very, very powerful Protestant who wanted a Protestant government, and Ireland wanted to remain Catholic.
That whole thing.
Yeah, it was a whole thing. I do not want to get into it because that's...
Yeah, this isn't Dr. Crow's history class today.
Nah, not today. It felt like I was going into some of his classes,
though. A little bit, yeah.
I actually managed to find some fairy-related stories about the Dunvegan Cup. They were mostly from stories in a couple of books that were written by R.C. MacLeod, who was something of a family historian at the time, around 1927. He wrote the stories and considers them to be fantastical stories and not real history. But since they were part of tradition, he thought, I kind of like the idea of these stories being included. It adds to the mystical nature behind the MacLeod family. And this is the direct story from R.C. MacLeod's The MacLeods of Dunvegan. Two brothers who were on very bad terms were joint tenants of the farm in Luscanter in Harris. One of these was the foster son of a witch, who lived in a cottage on the farm. She had a son named Lurin, who possessed some of his mother's magical powers, and could see things which were not revealed to the sight of ordinary mortals. He was also the swiftest runner in the country. As the cornfields were not fenced, it was necessary that the cattle should be watched night and day, to prevent them from doing injury to the crops. One night, Lurin, with some other young men, was employed to the work. None of the others could see what he saw. A fairy mound had opened. The fairies came out and danced for a time on the green grass. They then came to the herd. The witch had put a charm on her foster son's cattle, and the fairies could not hurt them. But they selected two beasts belonging to the other brother, killing them, skinned them, and leaving the skins full of offal on the ground, held a great feast in the fairy mound. This happened again and again. Almost every morning the skins of two beasts were found, and it was always the animals belonging to one brother which were taken. Lurin, who alone could have explained the mystery, held his tongue, but the farmer who had lost so heavily was firmly persuaded that it was his brother who had done the mischief, and brooding over his injuries, resolved to revenge himself when an opportunity came. One night, Lurin did a bold thing. He followed the fairies into the hill, and sitting close to the entrance, partook of the fairies' banquet. When the feast was over, the cup, filled with wine, was passed around. The cup came to Lurin. He seized it, spilt the wine, knowing that it was death to a mortal to drink the fairies' wine, and he fled for his life. Infuriated, the fairies pursued him, but his swiftness of foot stood him in good stead, and he gained a stream which flowed down the hill near the fairy mound. Having crossed this, for the moment he was safe, for no fairy can cross running water. He made his way to his mother's cottage. She cast potent spells over the house, and this made it impossible for the fairies to enter. For some time, Lurin never ventured to go out, unless his mother had put a protecting spell on him. But one day he forgot, and went out with no charms on him. The fairies found him and killed him, and so avenged the theft of the cup. His mother, hating the thing which had cursed her son's death, gave it to her foster son. Thus it came to Luscantyre. Meanwhile, the quarrel between the two brothers grew worse and worse. And at last, Neil Glundug, the one who had lost so heavily, killed his brother and seized all of his possessions, including the cup. The witch went to Dunvegan and told the chief the whole story. Malcolm came to Luscantyre, hanged the murderer, and confiscated all he possessed, taking the cup, or horn, to Dunvegan. And that's the first story about the Dunvegan Cup.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
So, basically, don't fuck with fairies.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, Lauren was like a cow herder.
My computer had an opinion about all that.
Fair enough. Yeah. Lauren was essentially like a ranch hand.
Yeah.
And the two brothers, and he was in no relation to the actual two brothers.
No,
he was in relation
just
to the
a
witch.
third
Yeah.
party.
And he had these abilities, and that's a common thing with the fairy cup stories, is that if you drink of fairy wine, you're going to die, or you're going to be under their power. There's a
it's a spell with something.
Yeah, there's
you're
a
either
myriad
dead or you're a slave.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's why I also don't give your name to the fae. There's a list of things here. But that was the first story. The second one is mostly the same, except the ending is just a little different. So we're gonna jump ahead.
Yeah.
A little bit, and it goes such as it relates how the chief held a great banquet at Rowdell in Harris. Among the guests was Neil Glundub of Luscantyre, a quarrelsome man whom his neighbours detested. While the feast was going on, a quarrel broke out between Neil and Magnus, the chief's youngest son. Neil did not dare attack the son at his father's board, surrounded as he was by clansmen loyal to their chief, and perhaps fearing that he might do something fatal to himself. He sprang up and rushed for the door of the room. Magnus, a hot-headed boy, also jumped up, and reaching the door first, barred Neil's exit. The latter, in a fit of ungovernable fury, drew his dagger, killed Magnus with a single blow, and then sought safety in flight. He gained the top of a rock, on which he made his stand. With him he had his bow and a quiver in which were 12 arrows. For a while he kept his pursuers at bay, killing a man with each arrow. When his last arrow was expended, he drew his sword and made a desperate resistance. But at last he was overpowered, seized, and condemned to be flayed alive. Orders were issued that all his family should be put to death and his home burnt, all his possessions, including the cup, being confiscated.
I like the first one better. Less murder and flaying alive.
Sounds like the Boltons got a hold of him on that one.
Yeah. No kidding.
That's one character. I kind of going off of Game of Thrones here. I love this. I did enjoy the Game of Thrones series.
Except for that last part.
It really petered out near the end, which is unfortunate. But Ramsay Bolton, he was a
good villain.
I hated him so much, but it was like I loved to hate him because he was so irredeemably hideous of a monster. He was pure psychotic.
I will give Game of Thrones credit where credit is due. The villains that they have are magnificent.
They're
like Joffrey, Bolton, the Night King.
The Night King, yeah.
Cersei, like fantastic villains. I can understand some of the motivations on them.
They're not just a two-dimensional cartoony one. They have some three-dimensionality to them. Yeah. But they're still a little cartoony. I mean, come on. Flaying people alive is your thing? Like, goddamn.
I mean, if that's what you're into, I ain't gonna yuck your yum, I guess.
Nah.
But
another treasure is Sir Rory Moore's drinking horn. This is gonna be a good one.
Oh boy.
It's an ox horn that has been tipped in silver around the widest part of the rim, and it's likely from the 10th century and Norse in origin. But some think it's from the 15th century.
That's quite a gap.
My money's still
500 years.
My money's still on the 10th century, just because of how it looks. There's some people are like, oh, it's from the 15th century, but there's only like a handful of people who think that. Most think it is 10th century.
Yeah.
So the rim is thick and has 7 medallions imprinted onto it. 3 of the medallions have beasts on them, while the other 3 have detailed knotwork patterns, and then that 7th medallion has a combination of the 2. The main traditional custom for the drinking horn is for every incoming MacLeod of MacLeods to drink wine from it in one go.
Oh, so initiation is a chug.
Yes. So when they're doing lines, so it's usually like the firstborn.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, you know, medieval rites is how they're still going off of it.
Yeah, first side sort of thing.
Yeah, but some of them actually were, you know, grandson to it's a whole thing. I looked into a lot of it based upon how the families would go. And when the heir apparent was to, you know, 18, 19, when they were
come of age,
they would have to drink this. It was to prove that they were worthy of the title MacLeod of MacLeods. And this thing can hold 2 imperial pints, which is a little over 1 liter.
And you gotta chug that in one round.
In one go.
I'd like a liter of cola.
I like a liter of cola there, Farva.
Can we get this MacLeod a liter of cola?
See that? Liter of cola. Now, I'm not sure if the tradition is still upheld today, but I mean, if it is, I really hope it is, because that's gotta be funny
I'm gonna try and persuade someone that I have MacLeod in me so I can see if I can do it.
Apparently, though, by 1906, a portion of the horn has been filled in, so the draft isn't as much as it used to be.
Lame.
Yeah, I don't think it was as much, but I think it still holds about a little under a liter now, I think, but that's about it. I actually have a funny little side story about the horn. Apparently, in 1956, Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip visited Dunvegan Castle. John MacLeod, the grandson and successor of the 28th MacLeod of MacLeods, Dom Flora MacLeod, was challenged to drink from the horn, which had been filled with wine. He downed the drink in 1 minute and 57 seconds.
Nice.
So that's John.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah, so John MacLeod was the 29th, so he is the father of Hugh Magnus.
So I'm going to sidebar your side note.
Sure.
I feel like we should do an experiment.
Do a liter of alcohol.
And see if we can beat the what was it, minute and 57 seconds?
Minute 57 seconds.
I feel like I'm game.
I'm
gonna die, but you know.
I'll drink a Moscato or something. I'll do that.
I just drank the rest of my Di Serono, so
it wouldn't be like whiskey or rum. That would absolutely wreck you. I could do.
No, it'd be fine.
I don't want to do that. I'll take a liter of wine any day. Like that, I'll drown that quick. I do have some stories also surrounding the horn as well. There's stories.
I'm sure there's a few stories that people can't remember either.
The couple ones that I found were, again, through R.C. MacLeod, because he did a lot of the stuff in the 1900s and 1920s, wherein he was gathering up information for the MacLeods, because everything was hearsay and oral tradition for the longest time.
Yeah, so he wanted something that he could read back after drinking from the horn and be like, oh yeah, that happened.
Likely. What's even better is that he was, I think, the third son of one of the MacLeod of MacLeods. And he wanted to become a historian, a professor, so he, like going to the monastery when you're being the third oldest, or in that sort of thing. Let's see. One story about the horn is that Malcolm, the third chief, was returning to Dunvegan from a little rendezvous with the wife of another family. Shortly after that night, he encountered a dangerous bull that was attacking local people from a nearby forest. Something you're not entirely unfamiliar with, I would assume.
Yeah, I don't have to.
Armed with nothing but a dirk and no armor, Malcolm fought against the bull before slaying it and then cutting a horn off, carrying it back to Dunvegan to be turned into a drinking horn.
I mean, what else do you do after that?
This also led to the formation of the MacLeod's heraldic... That's a bad word. I'm going to try that one again.
Heraldic?
Yep. This also led to the formation of the MacLeod's heraldic crest and motto, a bull's head with the phrase, "Hold fast."
I was really hoping you were about to say, hold my beer.
Actually, hold my horn.
Yeah.
Wait,
no,
hang on a second.
No.
Phrasing.
No.
Oh, God.
Phrasing's the thing we're not talking about. No.
Oh, God. I walked into that one.
At least you didn't walk into the horn.
I mean, you were like, yeah, and you and I were like, nope, phrasing. Nope.
Ooh.
Oh, boy.
Grab life by the horn. No, please don't.
I mean, he did. I mean, Malcolm did in this case of that story. Another story is of Tormund, the 12th chief. This is another Tormund, not the son of Lode, but like the further down the way.
I was thinking Tormund from Game of Thrones. She is a beautiful woman.
The big woman's still here. Let's see. But another story is of Tormund, the 12th chief, visiting Argyll, the chief of Clan Campbell at Inverary Castle. The names of some of these places, I love it.
Yeah, no kidding.
It's vocal gymnastics that I'm having to really go through.
What, that Robin Williams bit about drinking with a Scotsman. Don't do it.
You'll never fucking understand it before. Hey!
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Any Scottish people listening right now, I hope you're having a laugh at our expense, because we're stupid Americans. Anyway, Tormund learned, while being entertained, that one of his own clansmen was a convicted criminal and was sentenced to death, with the punishment being that the convicted was to be gored to death by a bull.
That is not a pleasant thing.
No, it is not.
I've seen the running of the bulls.
No. Man, I'll tell you, medieval level sentencings, they were torture. I mean, flayed alive, your entire family and historical home is burned to the ground, or you get gored by a bull.
Man, makes death by firing squad seem like a walk in the park.
Makes that look humane.
Yeah.
Tormund tried to appeal to Argyll, but the opposing chief said that the sentence must be carried out. Tormund wouldn't stand for this, so he jumped into the execution ring, and armed with his dirk, he fought the bull by grabbing its horns, yelled out, "Hold fast," and upon slaying the fearsome beast with his dirk, Tormund saved his fellow clansmen from death.
And if I remember correctly, dirks aren't large swords. They're
a good-sized dagger.
Daggers.
About a good, 7-8 inch dagger? Nothing major.
Which makes it all the more impressive he KO'd a bull with it.
Oh yeah, big time. Because I've seen bulls during the during the bullfighting matches and everything, the old ways, and they've got swords sticking out of them. I'm like,
yeah. I mean, I had side story. I used to raise Texas Longhorns, and our bull, Snowy Mountain, was easily 1.5 tons when we sold him off. But I ain't fighting that thing. And his little brother, his steer brother Waffle, was on record, or was on track to become the record breaker, the world record breaking tip-to-tip horns.
Damn. I remember Waffle.
And their pasture mate before we bought them was the world record holder.
Ah, jeez.
And Waffle, when we sold the property off, he was the last one we could wrangle up. He broke 5 lengths of barbed wire fence. And our lengths were about, I think we were doing 15 feet apart. And he broke 5 lengths of that.
Good God.
Yeah. Waffle was a monster. He was taller than his brother, was a little bit more lean, but those horns were vicious. And he was tame. So I can't imagine a bull that was pissed off and was out to kill you.
Oh, yeah. And that's the thing about cows and bulls. They are stupid tough. They are dumb tough.
Yeah. Our neighbor he was a Hispanic gentleman, and he had Mexican fighting. He had the fighting bulls that they use in Spain.
Oh, wow.
He had Corrientas.
Ooh.
And he had one bull. It was his big breeding bull, because made Snowy look like a friggin' wuss.
This thing was a champion, wasn't it?
This thing put a dent in a Dodge 3500 dually that had a brush guard, and he broke the radiator.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. This, I think... Oh, God, I can't remember his name. Miguel was the neighbor. Miguel, I think last time he weighed that monster, he was pushing 3,600 pounds.
3,600 pounds. How do you weigh a bull, by the way? How do you weigh it? Do you actually have like a...
You take your empty trailer to a semi-truck weight, and you weigh how much your truck and your trailer weigh, and then you go back home, bring the bull over.
Okay,
and then you take the difference.
Okay, I was curious. I did not know that.
At least that's what you do with those breeds, like those monsters.
I could imagine.
Because sometimes you can just take them onto a weight, like at specialty vets, and you can just weigh them like that. But no, not with that. Not with Monstro.
I've seen those types of weights when you go into for like the bigger dogs.
Yeah,
I've seen those.
It's just for cows and horses and stuff. At that point.
That makes a lot of sense. I never knew because I've never owned horses or cows, so I never know.
No, with Miguel's bull, he had to literally take it to a semi-truck weight.
God damn.
And take the difference.
That is a lot of muscle. Yeah. That is a lot of muscle.
Anyway, yeah, bulls. Don't mess with them. They kill you. Unless you have a dirk and you're Scottish.
I mean, have you seen some of the Scottish Highlanders, dude?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
pole vaults with tree trunks.
Caper tosses.
Yeah, caper tosses.
I've seen those. Those guys are brick houses on legs.
And yet people make fun of them for wearing kilts.
The Scots had it right because, I mean, it's nice having the bits not, I'd say they had it right.
Yeah, I'm not arguing with someone that can lift a tree up.
Yep, neither. Anyway.
Yeah, what were we talking about?
Well, actually, on to the final treasure itself, the flag. The fairy flag is roughly 18 inches square. It may have been a larger banner at one point.
Time and decay.
Yeah, so now it's about the size of a good handkerchief or bandana. But it may have been a little bit larger, like a proper banner.
Yeah, probably one that they put up in the castle, not so much outside or like a battlement flag.
Yeah, and it is yellow or brown in color and is made of silk.
Nice.
Initially, it had small golden thread crosses on it, as well as red elf dots. Which I'm like,
dots.
Little like red, looks like red raspberry embroidery, so to speak.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's what they call them elf dots, just for the sake of the fantastical.
Scottish.
I'm sending you a photo of what it looks like currently, which is I'll get
probably
into that.
Less than. Oh yeah, that's.
I'll get into that as we go along. Like I will put into it. The golden crosses have since gone away, as you can tell, and there are only a few of the elf dots remaining, as the flag itself has grown fragile, ripped, and tattered.
Mm-hmm.
It is the most famous and treasured of the MacLeod's heirlooms in Dunvegan. In Scottish Gaelic, the flag actually means Ambratach Sheath, which just translates to the fairy flag.
Yeah. Before we get too far in, send me a picture of the horn, too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Not your horn.
Yeah, God, no. Tony, get your mind out of the gutter, man.
The ox horn.
There you go. Good man. Let's see. Good thing I have it all served right here, because I have everything here. My search history is very much like, yeah, no, you had all this. Let's see.
Oh, that's 9th century. Or 10th century.
Very much.
Yeah, that's 900s. Absolutely. That's not
1500s.
No.
That thing. Anyway, back to the flag itself. Historically speaking, the flag may have actually originated in either Rhodes or Syria in the 4th century CE.
God. Even further back in time.
The silken banner is alleged to have some powerful properties should it be unfurled and waved, which I will get into. There are quite a few stories to this. There's even actual origins on the flag's acquisition.
Nice. So we actually have an origin story on it.
Exactly. And they all have one thing in common. The flag is of magical origins. The first story And this is actually somewhat grounded in reality. I say somewhat.
Somewhat, yeah, as much as a fairy flag can be grounded in reality.
In the first story, during the Crusades, and I actually looked into this, it would have been probably another 1200s, so this was, I think, the 6th Crusade. This was near the end of when the Crusades were going on, because it wasn't just one solid crusade, it was like, it was a series. It is believed that a MacLeod was a part of a crusade to the Holy Lands. One day on his venture back home, he was treated to food, drink, and shelter from a local hermit. During this time, the hermit told the MacLeod knight about an evil spirit or witch who lived further up the trail, and that this evil spirit was said to be a destroyer of true believers, and would not let any pass by unless they carried a piece of the true cross. Inexplicably, the MacLeod managed to slay the spirit, who turned out to be the daughter of Thunder, Nain na Fiuper, or Nain na Fepen, the different translation, so to speak, different names. With her dying breath, the spirit gave the MacLeod her girdle and told him to make it into a banner. The spirit also gave the MacLeod secrets about the success and future of the family, but whatever those secrets are, or were, have long since been lost to time. The Crusade story stops there, and not much could be found. I had another story that also is pertaining to the Crusade story, but the evil spirit was a separate being who was defeated, and then the MacLeod knight came to a river where a fairy maiden rose from the water and told him he couldn't pass. The knight defeated the fairy and made good friends with her. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Before the knight left, the fairy offered him a box. Inside the box were several smaller boxes, and in the inmost box was a magic banner that, when waved, would summon an army of armored men to aid the owner. She also said not to open the box for a year and a day. Otherwise, for that year and day, no crops would grow, sheep and cattle wouldn't have offspring, and children wouldn't be born.
And of course, human being human, open the box before that.
Well,
year and a day.
Well, don't jump ahead too far. The knight made his way back to Dunvegan Castle in haste, presenting the box to the chief's wife. Despite the knight's warning about the box, the chief's wife opened it, and an army of armored men appeared before her and the knight. The ill effects that the fairy maiden had said would happen also occurred. Despite this, the magical properties of the flag impressed the chief so much, the flag was preserved and would only be waved in times of great peril. So it's like, okay, we have access to a nuke now. The nuke has destroyed us for a year. I like it anyway, so we're going to use it only when necessary.
Yeah. In case of emergency, wave flag.
You have no idea how on the nose you are right now.
Yeah.
In other stories, the flag was given in or around Dunvegan Castle. The first of these tells the tale of a MacLeod chief who married a fairy. After 20 years of marriage, the fairy was forced to leave and return to the world of fairies. The MacLeod chief chased after her. The chase ended at the fairy bridge, where the two parted ways. Before she left, the fairy gave her lover a piece of fabric, imbuing it with magical abilities. She said that on the promise of the flag being waved in time of distress and peril, the fairies would aid the MacLeods on 3 occasions. Then, after the 3rd wave, it is believed that the flag and the bearer will disappear.
Well, it's still here, so they still got at least one.
Yep. There's an adjacent story to the tradition, interestingly, and it features a lullaby. According to tradition, on a fine autumn evening, a beautiful fairy maiden paid a visit to Dunvegan Castle. She made her way through several closed and locked doors with ease, making her way towards the nursery where the infant heir of the MacLeod chief was, lying in his cradle. The child's nursemaid was present when the fairy appeared and was powerless to do anything, with some kind of magic making her unable to move. Focused on the infant, the fairy moved over to the cradle and set the child on her knee and sang to him a lullaby. This lullaby was so captivating that it was imprinted in the nursemaid's memory, and she would use this sometimes to help the child rest. It is thought that singing this lullaby over any infant of the chiefly family would be protected by the fairies during any hardships or dangers. Interestingly, if a nursemaid couldn't sing the lullaby, she wouldn't be admitted to look over the children.
God.
Yep. So, there was a 200-year period where no children from Dunvegan chiefs were born in the castle. You know, going to hospital and everything. So the lullaby stopped being used, but it wasn't forgotten, thanks to the efforts of Neil MacLeod, the clan bard. You gotta be thankful for the bards on this one.
I'm not giving you credit for being bards.
Yep.
No.
He had traveled around in the late 19th century, acquiring the story from several old women and compiling it into the original Gaelic, but it was translated into English by Miss Tolmie, who was a friend to R.C. MacLeod, with it being translated as such. I actually did find the translations, and I kind of wish, and I do kind of wish, it's an interesting poem. It says, "Behold my child, limbed like the kid or fawn, smiting the horses, seizing the accoutrements of the shod horses, the spirited steeds, my little child. Oh, that I could see thy cattle fold, high up on the mountainside, a green shaggy jacket about thine 2 white shoulders, with a linen shirt, my little child. Oh, that I could behold thy team of horses, men following them, serving women returning home, and the catanach sowing the corn. O tender hero, whom my womb did bring forth, who did swallow from my breast, who on my knee wast reared. My child it is, my armful of you, merry and plump, my bulrush, my flesh and eggs, that will soon be speaking. Last year thou wast beneath my girdle plent of fertility, and this year, fair and playful on my shoulder, thou wilt be going round the homestead. O let me not hear of thy being wounded. Grey do thou become duly. May thy nose grow sharp ere the close of the day. O not the clan Kenneth art thou, O not the clan Con, descendant of a race more esteemed, that of the clan Lode, of swords and armor, whose father's native land was Lochlan." That's the English translation. I can only imagine how it would... I'm betting it sounds a lot more sing-songy in Gaelic.
Yeah, I'm
Probably
sure.
does. The English translation doesn't do well.
God.
And now...
That was a very... grim?
Grim would be one way to put it. It
was no itsy bitsy spider.
Yeah, it was not Itsy Bitsy Spider.
No.
No way. And now for the final story of the Fairy Flag. There was great rejoicing in Dunvegan Castle, because an heir was born to the chief. The nursemaid to the child was anxious to join in the festivities, so she did, leaving the child sleeping in the remote and quiet chamber. The blanket that was over the child soon fell off, and he woke up crying from the cold. No human help was nearby, but the fairies had heard the child crying. They came into the chamber and swaddled the child in one of their banners. In the mirth and merriment of the party, the revelers wanted to see the child, and thus the child's nursemaid was found and sent to get the child. Full on, "I would like to see the baby."
I would like to see the child.
Pretty much. When she returned with the child in this mystical blanket, and when the revelers looked upon the child, they were in awe, as well as the fabric over him. Their hearts were filled by the song of the fairies, which seemed to fill the entire room. It also set forth the power that the banner could be used to save the clan 3 times in days of dire need. Soon, silence filled the room, and the flag was taken from the child and put into a safe place until an iron chest was made. Once the chest was made, the flag was put inside and preserved and protected for generations. Which makes sense with the with it being an iron chest, because in a lot
fairies and iron don't get along.
Exactly. So to keep and once again, we have a nuke here. We have to keep it protected.
Yeah.
So what's the best way? Lead? A big lead box.
I'm going to put that thing in a box, and I'm going to put that thing in another box.
And are you going to mail it to yourself and smash it with a hammer?
Yes.
Better save on postage first.
Right.
It is also mentioned that the flag was carried into battle very frequently when the MacLeod clan went to war. It was just carried into battle, like probably in the box. It wasn't going to be out and waved. What the
Jimmy, bring the box.
Bring the box, Jimmy!
Don't open it.
Just bring it.
We want to look at the box.
It was brought into battle frequently with the utmost care and protection to ensure it stayed whole. Which, I mean, I wouldn't want to piss the fairies off.
No.
It was a gift. The chief would ride before the flag and would lay down his life for it, if it ever came to that. Apparently, being the flag bearer was also a massive honor. So, Jimmy, is a great honor to have you here. I'm happy to be here, sir.
Is this your first battle, boy? Nah,
What?
it's my seventh. What did I put in that cup? My joke was it was going to be it's his 11th battle, but he's only 5.
I know, right?
That was the joke.
You know what? It works either way. In regards of the flag having been waved in the past, there are for certain 2 times that it has been waved.
Oh, so they are down to 1.
Yes, there were 2 battles where it was thought the flag was flown. The first, it was thought to be at the Battle of Bloody Bay in 1490. That pretty much says right to the point. The Battle of Bloody Bay in 1490 when the MacLeods fought against the MacDonalds.
I mean, probably wasn't the only thing that was going to get bloody. It was probably going to be a bloody colon, too, if they were fighting McDonald's. Did they have help from the Burger King?
No. No. Now that says the MacDonald's with an M-A-C. You're thinking McDonald's with an M-C.
MC Donald's?
MC Donald's, baby. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. What a loving it.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Get the flag!
R.C. MacLeod, still with him, because he was a major source. Like, when I came across the books that he had, I was like, these are legitimate old stories that were recorded back then. Like,
yeah.
I found digital prints of them online, and the pages are yellowed and everything. It felt like actually going into a library back in the old days and finding the old books that were like,
minus the amazing smell of old book.
Minus the amazing smell of old book, but I could imagine it. I was like, oh, I know what this smells like. I can picture it immediately.
I was getting a weird contact high, and then I woke up 3 days later.
That beautiful dusty smell.
That's the only dusty old cars smell good too. But dusty old books, yeah.
Let's see. But R.C. MacLeod thinks the flag wasn't waved at this because the MacLeods were on the losing side.
That's fair.
And it is fair there.
Well, if they fully lost, but if they were on the losing side and all of a sudden they started winning...
Then it's like, yeah, no, maybe it was. Now, it was for sure waved at the Battle of Waternish in 1580, where the MacDonalds had burned a church filled with MacLeods and killed all inside before proceeding to march to Dunvegan Castle.
Jesus Christ, McDonald's.
This is warfare, man.
Ronald, don't fuck around.
The MacFuck around? Did you just say that?
Ronald, don't McFuck around.
With the news of this, the chief at the time flew the fairy flag, and just as the MacDonalds were coming upon Dunvegan, they turned around and ran away because of what appeared to be a massive army awaiting them. The MacDonalds fled back to their ships, which were sent back out into the water by a small group of MacLeods who had, snuck around them, and, only a handful of the MacDonalds' men had managed to swim and reach their boats, while the rest were slaughtered.
I mean, cholesterol issues will do that to you. Now I'm hungry for McDonald's.
Unintentional side effect of this reading. This is fun. Another tradition is that the flag was waved during a terrible cattle plague, and it stopped the illness. But there wasn't much to find on this story, and since it's so vague, it's likely it may not have actually happened.
Yeah.
R.C. MacLeod has a strong opinion that the flag was waved at the Battle of Glendale in 1490, then at the Battle of Waternish in 1580. So, Glendale was different from the Battle of Bloody Bay.
Yeah. So more likely just the two, but there's 2 other alternate options.
Roughly, there's about
the cattle plague, and then Bloody Bay were the possibles, and then water. I want to keep saying Waterloo.
Waternish.
Waternish. Okay.
And after that, it's likely that the flag, though, has not been waved since.
That third nuclear option is still available.
Yeah, mostly out of fear, though, that it will disappear and the MacLeods will suffer terrible disasters.
I mean, have you seen the political system of the world now?
I'm not going to say anything. After all that, it was kept back in its wooden box and iron chest until it was examined in the 1920s, which is where R.C. MacLeod got a chance to look at it, and he actually said, "I looked bigger when I was younger," which that makes sense.
Looked a lot bigger on the inside.
Yep. The flag is still housed in Dunvegan Castle, and it can be viewed by visitors to the castle.
Nice.
So
it's a concrete thing that is there. It's
the
not
photo I sent you is very much a real deal. That is the flag.
That's cool.
It is.
That's actually really nice.
I've seen a photo where it's actually hung up in like a glass case and everything.
Yeah,
up on the wall.
I'm sure on occasion they'll. I was about to say whip it out, but that's probably more for the horn.
Phrasing, unless you knew what you were doing.
I knew what I was doing. I'm sure they bring the flag out and they actually put it on display for like occasions, like certain things.
I mean, it's the biggest thing they have there. That's like in name.
Yeah.
I have some little closing side notes that I think you'd appreciate.
Okay.
First off, a fire broke out in the castle in either 1938 or 1939, so late 30s. And once the flag was carried to safety, the winds died down and the fire was extinguished. So it was saved.
Good.
Then, during World War II, a member of the Clan MacLeod carried a picture of the flag in his pocket. He told then Chief Dom Flora that he owes his luck and survival to the picture of the flag. And I'm gonna bring her back again. Chief Dom Flora is allegedly she offered to wave the flag at the cliffs of Dover to fend off the Nazis.
Nice.
And
that's cool.
Yeah, she was willing to go, I'll wave that flag against the Nazis. And I actually learned about this flag when I was in high school. My art director, Mr. McClure, shout out to you, man. I greatly appreciate your influence on my life. He is proud to be of Scottish heritage. And the name McClure actually stems from MacLeod. It stems from MacLeod. He told me the stories, and I was like, this is awesome. I've had that kept in my head for... It's currently 2023. I've had that in my head for nearly 12 years now. That story those stories have never left my head.
Yeah.
And he actually, I think this may have some nice little speculation, is that that's why Hitler didn't invade England, was that he may have learned about the fairy flag, and he did not want the fairy army going up against him. Yeah. That's that possibility.
I mean, with them delving into the weird shit that they did toward the back end of it.
Yeah. And
Hellboy wasn't so much made up more than it was. Had some stems in reality.
So, I kind of kept this from you, but we actually have a sponsor for this episode.
Oh my god.
This episode is brought to you by the Society for Historical, Old, and Rare Treasures and Trinkets. The Society for Historic, Old, and Rare Treasures and Trinkets, or SHORT, is dedicated to the registration, recognition, and preservation of historic, old, and rare treasures and trinkets that are of a particular nature.
We actually have our sponsor.
That's it. That's the sponsor.
Holy shit.
The society was initially called the Society for Historical, Ancient, and Rare Treasures and Trinkets, but no one wanted to join a group called SHART.
Now I feel like you're messing with me. I had such high hopes. I was like, oh my god.
I was waiting for you to be like, wait, hang on a second. Its acronym is SHORT.
I don't know. Maybe they thought it was funny.
Tall and short. I was standing at one of my tables at work one day, and I was like, I kind of want to see if I can do like a joke thing here. Society for Historic, Old, Rare Treasures would have just been short, but I was like, no, short with 2 T's would be funnier. And there's only one member right now. That's me.
Yeah, and their founding member's about to get killed off mysteriously.
You were like, oh my god.
No, I legitimately thought we actually had a sponsor. I was like, Why did they pick us?
Well, the society would like to recognize the fairy.
Shut up.
The fairy flag.
Shut
of
up.
Dunvegan.
Just say you. Just say you.
Well,
Just say you.
well, I do want to recognize the fairy flag of Dunvegan, as well as the Dunvegan Cup and Sir Roy Moore's horns, as old, rare, historical treasures and trinkets. So I figure that fits the bill.
If you didn't have such expensive things on this table, I would be flipping it right now.
I'm so glad that you don't want to do that, because we're not having that happen.
I'm just going to twist one of the knobs on the thing.
Please don't. Don't. That thing is sensitive. Don't. Anyway, but that has been the fairy flag of Dunvegan, Tony. Minus my little Tim Shady moment at the end there. Minus that little aspect at the end of it.
That's your new rap name. Tim Shady.
Yeah.
It's not mom spaghetti on your shirt. It's your blood, because I punched you in the face.
Nah. But what all did you think about the fairy flag, though, dude?
They need to make a movie of it.
It'd be a fun story.
I mean, that would just, or a series, like a Disney Plus series, or the guys at Game of Thrones need to hop on this, and they need to redeem themselves for that last season.
Oh, I agree.
And Game of Dragons, or whatever the new one is, because House of Dragons.
That's it.
I can't see anything, man.
Turn
the brightness up.
Get your gamma going up.
Yeah. No, I thought, I didn't know that the Scottish were the first to a nuclear device.
Well, just this particular family, but still.
Yeah, well, don't fuck with the MacLeods.
Yeah.
Because the McDonald's found out.
Yeah. When I was researching this, I knew, again, the basic stories about, the cattle.
I had nothing. I came in blind on this one, and I want a series now based off this.
I think it would be I think it'd be really fun to witness all this.
Yeah.
Or a Stars show or something like the MacLeods, like how they did the Tudors.
Yeah. Ooh, that'd be really good.
That would be really well done. It'd be a little, dramatized, obviously.
No, I mean, you sprinkle a little bit of Game of Thrones in there with the Tudors.
A little bit of mysticism, a little bit of mystical aspects, absolutely.
Get Ron Perlman to voice someone in there just because Ron Perlman.
Make him the king of the fairies. Him King Oberon. Yes. Have him King Oberon like, that's right, motherfuckers. I'm here.
Still smoking a cigar for some reason.
Now that's fairy weed. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
That's the good shit.
Fairy. That's the stuff you wake up 3 days later with.
Now, what do we have planned for our next episode, Tony?
Well, I'm going to talk about one of my favorite movie series up until the new ones. And then we're also going to talk about the possibility of the subject still existing.
Uh-huh.
It's going to be quite a walk in the park.
Ooh. Okay. I'm kind of digging where you're at.
Or, if you see one, run.
Oh, yeah. Clever girl.
Clever girl. Alrighty.
Well, once again, everybody, thank you all for listening to Tall and Short with Tim and Tony.
Don't forget our sponsor.
Once again, thank you to the Society for Historical Old and Rare Treasures and Trinkets for sponsoring this video, for sponsoring our podcast. Drop a rate and review. It does help us out. Like, word of mouth does help a podcast out. So please tell your friends, tell family, tell your dog, tell your cat, and tell anybody. Just listen. Yeah. Have them all listen to our podcast.
If you're one of our first 100 subscribers, Kim? Who's Kim?
Who's Kim? Tim.
Tim will come to your house and give you a hug personally.
Mine's the T. And I do like giving hugs. I will ask permission first because that is what you're supposed to do. What? You're gonna make me a fucking weirdo.
Have you listened to what you've talked about for the past hour and change?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Anyway.
Alrighty then. All right. Well, we're gonna go ahead and leave now.
Follow us on socials, Tall and Short Podcast on Facebook and Instagram, or you can send us an email to tallandshortpod@gmail.com. All the information is down in the show notes if you want to get to us there. And before I go, don't wander into the woods and drink from a fairy's cup. All right?
Or do.
And don't wrestle bulls.
Or do.
Bye.